Have you ever just stopped to think about the incredible balancing act your body is performing right now, this very second, without you even noticing? I mean, it's this silent, constant symphony of tiny adjustments that just keeps you stable. Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on this amazing biological autopilot.
I mean, think about it. Regulating your temperature, managing your energy. There are just countless, complex processes happening inside you at all times. So how in the world does your body keep everything running so smoothly, from the second you wake up till you fall asleep? The answer, it turns out, lies in one single, beautiful, and really powerful concept.
And that concept is homeostasis. It's really just the idea that our bodies are always working to maintain a stable, constant internal state no matter what's going on outside. It's your body's own intelligent autopilot, constantly making these tiny little corrections to keep you perfectly balanced. So let's see how it works by walking through a completely typical day.
Okay, so let's follow this autopilot system through a normal day, starting from the moment your alarm goes off. Now, you might feel like you've been doing absolutely nothing all night, but actually, after hours without food, your body's been performing a kind of metabolic miracle just to keep things running.
This is called the post-absorptive state, which is just a fancy way of saying a fasting state, right? You're not eating, so your body isn't absorbing new fuel. Instead, it does something really clever. It taps into its emergency pantry, a stored form of sugar called glycogen, to make sure your brain stays powered up while you're dreaming. But then, it's time for breakfast.
In that breakfast, well, it flips a switch. As you eat, you shift from that fasting or post-absorptive state to the fed or absorptive state. Your body stops raiding the pantry and starts using the fresh groceries you just gave it. So, what happens to that food?
Well, the carbs in your breakfast get broken down into glucose, and this glucose is like the raw material that gets delivered to all your little cellular factories. Inside those factories, it gets converted into the single most important energy molecule in your body, ATP. You can think of ATP as the universal energy currency. I mean, from a muscle twitch to a new thought, ATP is the molecule that pays for it all.
Now this whole energy conversion process has a name, cellular respiration. And you can kind of picture it like a three-stage assembly line. First, the glucose molecule gets split in half. Then, those smaller pieces are sent into the cell's power plants, the mitochondria, for more processing. And finally, there's this incredibly complex chain reaction that cashes in all the potential energy, producing a huge amount of ATP.
And the payoff here is just incredible. From just one single molecule of glucose, this cellular factory can churn out around 36 units of ATP energy. It's a remarkably efficient process, constantly making the power you need just to get out of bed and start your day. So now you're fueled up, you're ready for a workout. But as you start moving, a whole new set of balancing acts kicks in, mostly having to do with heat and with water.
As your muscles work harder and harder, they generate a lot of extra heat, which raises your core temperature. Your brain's internal thermostat, this little region called the hypothalamus, immediately senses this change. And what does it do? It flips the switch on your sweat glands. The evaporation of that sweat from your skin is an amazingly powerful way to cool you down.
But of course, all that sweating uses up a resource your body is literally mostly made of: water. Yeah, the adult body is about 60% water, and it's absolutely essential for pretty much every chemical reaction that keeps you alive. So as you can imagine, maintaining that water balance is critical. The key principle that governs all of this is something called osmosis. It's a simple but really powerful rule of nature. Basically, water will always move from an area with less stuff dissolved in it to an area with more stuff dissolved in it. It's always trying to dilute the more concentrated side to create a balance. And that dissolved stuff, things like salt and sugar, they're called solutes, and they're what direct the flow of water all throughout your body.
So let's just trace what happens when you're working out. First, you sweat and you lose water. Simple enough. Because you've lost that water, the fluid that's left in your bloodstream becomes just a little bit more concentrated with solutes like salt. Now you have these specialized sensors in your hypothalamus. They're called osmoreceptors, and they are incredibly sensitive to this tiny shift in concentration.
And that detection signal gets translated into a conscious feeling that we all know really well: thirst. It's just your body's autopilot telling you, hey, time to rehydrate.
So, after your workout, you grab a snack. Maybe something a little salty. Well, this simple little act kicks off yet another amazing homeostatic process, but this time it involves electrolytes. Electrolytes are really just minerals that carry an electric charge when they're dissolved in water. Like sodium and potassium. And as this quote says,
They are the main solutes that direct the flow of water through osmosis. But they do so much more than that. That electric charge is literally what allows your nerves to fire and your muscles to contract.
And what's so fascinating is that your body works incredibly hard to maintain a very deliberate imbalance. It packs potassium inside your cells while keeping most of the sodium outside the cells. This huge difference in concentration creates an electrical gradient across the cell membrane. It's like a tiny, charged battery, just ready and waiting to power a nerve impulse at a moment's notice.
So how does your body maintain this critical imbalance against the natural flow of things? Well, it uses tiny molecular machines called sodium-potassium pumps. These pumps are in every single cell membrane, and they use that ATP energy we made at breakfast to constantly act like little gatekeepers, pushing sodium out and pulling potassium in. Get this, it's estimated that up to a third of all the energy you burn while you're just sitting at rest is used to power these tireless little pumps.
Okay, so let's connect this all back to your salty snack. When you eat it, the sodium levels in your blood go up. Naturally, osmosis kicks in, pulling water out of your surrounding tissues and into your bloodstream to dilute all that salt. This increases the total amount of fluid inside your blood vessels. And if you think about it, it's like adding more water to a fixed set of pipes. The pressure inside just has to go up. And that right there is why a high-salt diet is so closely linked to high blood pressure.
So from energy to temperature to hydration and electrolytes, we've seen how all these systems are constantly working, constantly adjusting. It really is a continuous, totally interconnected performance.
I mean, just think about it. Right now, as we speak, your kidneys are working like these incredibly sophisticated filtration plants, carefully balancing the salt and water in your blood to manage your blood pressure.
And with every single breath you take, your lungs aren't just grabbing oxygen, they are fine-tuning the pH of your blood by controlling the exact amount of carbon dioxide you exhale.
At the same time, your liver is acting like a central energy bank, constantly deciding whether it should store extra glucose after you eat or release it back into the bloodstream to make sure your brain has a steady supply of fuel.
And at the absolute center of it all, your brain is the master conductor, constantly sensing all these internal changes and sending out commands to orchestrate this entire beautiful, silent symphony.
Every single second, without a single conscious thought from you, this biological autopilot is performing millions of tiny calculations to keep you in that perfect state of balance. It's really an amazing, silent partner in your health. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you're a little more aware of this incredible system, how can you make choices that work with it instead of against it?